Hello everyone, it's Mrs. Notzel again. So we're going to go over the guided practice and the independent practice for volume for today. Today is Wednesday. So I hope all of you are doing well and are getting all of your work done and everything like that. So this first example is a box of breakfast cereal is 20 centimeters long, 7.5 centimeters wide, and 30 centimeters high. What is the volume of the box? So you simply multiply length times width times height. Length times width times height. Okay, and then they came out with 4,500 cubic centimeters. So again, it can be a decimal that you're multiplying, or it can be a fraction. Okay, decimals and fractions can be represented either way. This could have been 7 1/2 or 7 5/10. So either way, decimal or fraction. Number 16 says the base of a jewelry box is a square with a side length of 5.5 inches. The box is 2 inches high. What is the volume of the box? Okay, my first suggestion to you is to draw a picture. And it tells you that it's a square. So I would like for you guys to draw a picture and try to figure it out. The fact that it's a square tells me that the side lengths are going to be the same, because in a square, all side lengths are the same. So go ahead, I'm going to pause it, and I want you guys to try to figure this out before we solve it together. Okay, I hope you had some time to solve it. So I went ahead and drew a picture of it. And if you can see, the bottom of mine is a square. So I have 5.5 by 5.5. Oops, I got to go this way. 5.5, and then the height is 2. So my volume is 5.5 times 5.5 times 2. So if you remember correctly, I told you that to change a mixed number into an improper fraction, you multiply the denominator by the whole number. So 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 more is 11 over 2, because you do not change the denominator. So then you would have 11 over 2 times 11 over 2 times 2 over 1. Because 2 is a whole number. So we multiply all the numbers straight across. So you have, you have 11 times 11. So you should get 121. And then you got to take that times 2. So you should get 242. And then 2 times 2 times 1 is 4. So then 242 divided by 4. 4 cannot go into 2, but 4 can go into 24 6 times. And then you bring down your 2. 4 cannot go into 2. So you get 60 2/4, or 60 1/2 cubic inches. So here's all my work. Okay, 11 times 11 times 2, you get 242 over 4. Then when you divide, you get 60 2/4, or 60 1/2 cubic inches. All right, now make sure you're paying attention to these things over here, because they are very helpful. They give you suggestions and hints. They told you to sketch a picture. It's a good way to organize your information. And they said if the base is a square, which 2 dimensions do you know? Well, you already know the length and the width because it's a square, so that means the side lengths are the same. All right, now moving on to number 17. A rectangular swimming pool is 10 meters long and 4.5 meters wide. If the volume of the pool is 72 cubic meters, how deep is the water? Okay, so we know the length, the width, and the volume. So we have 72 equals 10 times 4.5 times h. Okay, we're solving for that unknown again, but we have a decimal, so you have to work with the decimal. Remember, when you multiply decimals, you do not have to line them up, only when you add and subtract. So we're trying to figure out how deep that water is. This problem is different from the previous two because the previous two, we knew all of our dimensions and we had to solve for the volume. So we just had to multiply across. Now we're going to have to multiply two of our numbers and then divide. Okay, so we have 4 5/10 times 10, and that gives you 45. All right, so you're going to have 72 equals 45 times h. Now remember, we already talked about this. In order to undo multiplication, you have to do the opposite. So you have to divide. Okay, so you divide both by 45 and you get 72 over 45. Well, both of those can be divided by 9 because 72 divided by 9 is 8. 45 divided by 9 is 5. So you have 8/5, which would give you 1 3/5 meters. So 1 3/5 meters is your answer for number 17. So that's how deep the pool is. Okay. You could also put it in decimal form. Since the number up here was in decimal form, we can put it in decimal form. We could divide 8 by 5 or 5 by 8. Five can go into 8 one time, and it would be 1 6/10. Okay. Those are your two choices for your answer for number 17. All right, number 18 says the volume of a rectangular prism is 10 cubic feet. What could the dimensions of the prism be? All right, it says, so the volume of a rectangular prism is 10 cubic feet. So that's the volume. So then length times width times height. So if you multiplied, she chose C, and they want to know how she got that answer. You'd have to multiply each one of these out to see if you got 10, because you'd have 100 times 1/2 times 1/2. And so 100 times 1/2 would be like, that's 100 over 1. So that would be, I'm going to pause it. I'm going to give you guys a chance to try to figure this out before I start talking it out. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you had a chance to try to figure that out. So if you multiply 100 times 1/2 times 1/2, 100 times 1/2 would give you 50, because half of 100 is 50. And then 50 times 1/2 would give you 25, because half of 50 is 25. So A does not work. Now, if you looked at B, 10 times 1/2 is 5, because half of 10 is 5, and then 5 times 2 is 10. So B is actually the correct answer. But she chose C. So C is 5, 2.5, and 2.5. What she did was, instead of multiplying, she added, and that's how she chose C. So she added the dimensions instead of multiplying. So that's what she did wrong. Because 2.5 plus 2.5 is 4 2/2, which is actually equal to 5, and then 5 plus 5 is 10. So she added. Let's look at the independent practice. What is the volume of a cube with edge lengths of 2/3? Now remember, a cube is a 3D shape and the flat shape or the 2D shape is a square. So we know that a square has all side lengths the same. So to solve for the volume of this cube, you know that all side lengths would be the same. So I'm going to pause it and let you try this one. Okay, hopefully you had enough time to answer. So your answer should look like this: 2/3 times 2/3 times 2/3, which equals 8/27 cubic yards, which would be the same as letter C. Okay, number 2. The volume of a box of soup broth is 972 cubic centimeters. The box is 20 centimeters high and 8/10 centimeters long. How wide is the box? Go ahead and try it on your own. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you had time to figure out number 2. Again, now we're solving for the missing dimension. So the volume of a box of soup broth is 972 cubic centimeters. So we have 972 cubic centimeters equals 20 times 10 and 8/10, which equals W. Okay, 20 times 10 and 8/10 gives you 216 times W equals 972. Then you have to take and divide both sides by the 216. And then I did the division down here, and I figured out that 216 can go into 972 4 times, and then it would be 4 5/10 centimeters. So it would be letter B. All right, number 3. The cargo hold of a truck is a rectangular prism measuring 18 feet by 13.5 feet by 9 feet. The driver needs to figure out how many storage boxes he can load. Choose true or false for each statement. It says the truck driver can load up to 54 boxes with dimensions 3 feet by 3 feet by 4.5 feet. And then letter B says the truck driver can load up to 81 boxes with dimensions 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet. C, the truck driver can load up to 24 boxes with dimensions 4.5 feet by 4.5 feet by 4.5 feet. And then D says the truck driver can load up to 12 boxes with dimensions 9 feet by 4.5 feet by 4.5 feet. So I'm going to let you guys try that and see what you guys come up with. So I'm going to pause it. Okay, I know that this is a tough problem and it's a long problem, but the first thing that you need to do is you need to multiply 18 feet by 13.5 feet by 9 feet. And when you do that, you will come up with 2,187 cubic feet. So that's the volume of the cargo truck. Then for each one, for A, B, C, and D, you would need to multiply 3 feet by 3 feet by 4.5 feet. And then once you get that answer, then you'd have to multiply it by the number of boxes. Okay? So when you multiply 3 feet by 3 feet by 4.5 feet, you get 40.5 feet. And then when you take that and you multiply it by 54, you get 2,187. So that works. So A would be true. B, the truck driver can load up to 81 boxes with dimensions 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet. That answer would be no, because 81 times 27 does not equal 2,187. Letter C, the truck driver can load up to 24 boxes with dimensions 4.5 feet by 4.5 feet by 4.5 feet. When you multiply these together and multiply it by 24, you get 2,187. So the answer is true. And then D, the truck driver can load up to 12 boxes with dimensions 9 by 4.5 feet by 4.5 feet. And the answer, and then multiply that by 12, the answer would be true. Okay, number 4. The 3 shipping boxes below have different volumes and are to be labeled large, medium, and small based on their volumes. Write the appropriate label, large, medium, or small, under each of these boxes. So, of course, ladies and gentlemen, what you need to do is you need to solve for the volume of each one of those boxes. So when you take 2.5 times 2.5 times 2.5, you can, let's see, it's 5 halves times 5 halves times 5 halves. So 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. So you have 125 times 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So 125 divided by 8 is 15 and 5/8. All right, then when you take 30 times 1 times 1/2, that's just going to give you 15 because half of 30 is 15. So that one is 15. And then you have 12 times 2, which is 24, and then 24 times 3 halves. 24 times 3 is 72, and 72 divided by 2 is going to give you 36. So these are not drawn to scale, and they don't look like this, but this one will be your small, this one will be your medium, and this one will be your large, based off of their volume. Okay. Number 5 and number 6, I'm going to have you guys do on your own. So then that way we can see what you guys are able to do. So we'll put number 5 and 6 as your exit, or I would like for you to do 5 and 6 on your own, just practicing. If you have any questions or you need anything, please do not hesitate to email Miss Walker or myself. Hang out us or get a hold of us any way that you can. We are here to help in any way that we can. Good luck, guys. I know you guys will do great. All right, see you guys. We miss you. Bye.